Welcome to my new segment that I'm going to call Whose Fault Is It Anyway? Where you send me scenarios and stories and I give a little bit of discussion on them and give you my views as to what I think might be the case and whose fault I might think it is. So you'll know who you are, but someone sent me a description of what happened, which involved the purchase of a very expensive shower and installed by a third party. And the question is, whose fault is it that it seems to be faulty and leaking? Now, since the vendor, as I was told in the email, did not install this product, the question arises, is it a problem with the product or is it a problem with the fitting? Now, when it comes to filing a claim for such things, it is all going to come down to a question of fact as to whether it is the product or whether it is the fitting of the product that has caused the leak. Obviously, if there is an inherent problem with the product, then it might cause the leak, or if there's an inherent problem with the way it's been fitted, whether it's not been fitted adequately, then it will be the fitter's problem and the vendor of the product will not be to blame. Sometimes you might order a product and the fitting at the same time. This is called a supply and service contract, where someone is supplying you the goods and they are supplying the service to fit those goods. Now, this still comes under the Consumer Rights Act as a consumer contract where there is more than one element to the contract, both the product and the supply, both the supply of the product and the service, which is usually the fitting of said product. Now, in the situation with a shower, as in this case, I think it's going to be very difficult to take the thing apart and show any one component of it to prove that the component is defective, as against showing that the fitting of said product is defective. So the only way this is going to be resolved is on a matter of evidence and, if absolutely necessary, an expert report. But an expert report is obviously going to need to look at the product, which would then have to be reassembled and looked at closely to determine whether it was at fault. And if it wasn't at fault, then it's already been removed and you see the problems that that entails. The court, on the other hand, may take just the evidence of the fitters as to whether they are professional fitters, whether they've got a long-standing reputation, and whether they are likely to have done an adequate job in fitting the thing. On the other hand, if defending the claim, the vendor might provide lots of reviews of this product where other people have used it to say that there's nothing wrong with the product. And so this is an inherently difficult one, I'm afraid. It's going to come down to one of those two things, and having not seen either, it's difficult to say one way or the other who's to blame. If the fitter is a long-standing fitter, never had any problems, and the reviews for the product show that lots of other people have had problem with it leaking, then it's more likely to be the product that's at fault. If the reverse is true and it's not a well-established fitter, but the reviews for the product on the website are sterling and no one else seems to have had any problem with it, then it's more likely to be the fitter's problem, in which case it isn't the vendor's problem. So whilst it might seem overkill in a situation like this, if you are unsure as to which defendant you need to claim against, you would sometimes claim against both of them, and it would be for each of them to show that it's not their fault. The problem with this, however, is that you would normally bear the burden of the costs of both parties, save for where the claim is allocated to the small claims track, where the ordinary cost rules don't apply, so you may not be responsible for the costs of both parties. So an altogether difficult situation, I'm afraid, but would require a little bit of research, a little bit more digging, but I hope that helps to address the question. So in the meantime, send me your stories and scenarios for the next episode of Whose Fault Is It Anyway? Thanks for watching.